Hi everyone, it's Claire back again. So I've really been looking forward to this video. Even though I've been putting it off and putting it off, I put it off for months. And because it's the green over the rainbow, I thought if I don't do it in March, which is St. Patrick's, green themed month, then I'm just gonna keep procrastinating about it. So I'm going to go through about over 20 different, not shades, but different categories of green. So there's no way I'm going to be able to swatch, but what I'm going to do is just show you some green polishes and talk about green. So here is the first category of greens. Now before I start, just to say, and I've mentioned this in all of the rainbow videos, we all see colour differently, and also colour spans across a spectrum. So what you might see as a classic mint green might be something different to me. And in fact, with emerald green and with forest green, they were the most difficult to narrow down just because of the wide shade range within those categories. But first of all, I'm going to start with, I've broken it down into three sections. So there's kind of food, so green shades that relate to fruit, veg, herbs, that kind of thing. And then I've got nature, which is flowers and gemstones. And then I've got the final category is just other greens. So let's start with food. So the first category is lime green. And I've got 4 lime greens here just to show you how wide ranging the colour category is. So this is Orly Thrill Seeker, which is a bright neon lime green. And then the more muted but more classic lime greens. So this is Sinful Colours Innocent, Green with Envy by Sally Hansen, and Essence Good Limes, which has got like a really pretty gold shimmer. So those are some lime greens. And the reason that we find it difficult to narrow it down is because actually green is the colour that we can see most of. It's the most dominant and visible colour to our eye, so that's the reason why we can see most shades of green. And it's probably the reason that I've got a lot of greens in my collection. So moving on to pear. This is the polish that I had that's nearest in my collection to a pear green. And this is Navigate Her that was sent to me by Loopy Frog, and I absolutely love this shade of green. So that's a pear green. And then we've got pistachio green, which is, funnily enough, Sinful Colours Pistache. So this is a pistachio green, which to me does look like the kind of the green that you find inside the pistachio nuts. So that's that one. And then we have olive green, and there's a couple of shades here to show you. These are both olive green. So they do have that very dark kind of khaki tone to them. Olive green, again, is another vast category. I mean, this shade on my hands at the moment, which is Ard As Nails Lunch Date, is a very, very soft, it's like a super holographic from the 9 to 5 collection. And this you could argue is an olive green, but the shades that I could find most of tended to be this kind of greyed out, deep olive green. So that's West Side Warrior from China Glaze and H&M Olive Grove. And then we have the mint greens, as I mentioned. It's a vast colour category. Even just the subcategory of mint greens, you have green mint greens, and then you have more blue mint greens, which these are going to look blue in the camera next to these two, but these are all within the mint shade. So this is Essence Instant Happiness, Barry M Sugar Apple that I've tried to find dupes for. And then the more green mints are Need a Refresh Mint from China Glaze and the classic Mint Sorbet from Sally Hansen. Actually, there are two more greens in this category that I forgot to mention, and that's sage green. And I've got to represent that off the grid by H&M, which is this one here. So they're like grey greens, but that really to me does look like a sage leaf. So that's Off the Grid and Vested Interest by Essie, and they represent my sage greens. So the next category is nature, so flowers, gemstones, animals. And before we get into that though, let me give you some facts about green. Green is my favourite colour, as most of you know, and it's the colour of life. It's all about growth and renewal and energy and nature and the environment. That's why we say green when we're, going green. Red is the complementary colour for green, and of course we find red and green as popular colours around Christmas. Green has a physical effect. It stimulates the pituitary gland, so it relaxes the muscles and it dilates the blood vessels, and it gives a calming feeling, reducing stress and relieving stress. It can also improve your vision. So let's have a look at some of the nature greens. Some of these greens surprise me a little bit. If we think about fern green, I don't know if you can see a green here that you think looks like a fern green. To me, fern green was darker, but from what I can tell when I did the research, this is a fern green. So it's actually quite, this is Mermaid's Tears and this is Jade Jump, which actually isn't a jade. I suppose it's like a very, very, very pale pastel jade. But yeah, this is a fern green. And then we have a moss green, and this one here, this is a beautiful Wonko Ard As Nails cream, and this is Missy, which represents my moss green. Then we have a seafoam green, and this is a very bright seafoam green, but this is Barry M Green Beret, and this is going to look just bright turquoise in the camera, but it's actually not as bright as that. But yeah, this is a seafoam green. Then we have a shamrock green or Kelly green. So what I'm going to do is go with my two Irish YouTube friends on this matter, and they both chose the other side as a kind of shamrock Irish green. So for me, in this purposes of this video, I'm going to consult with the experts and say that this is a shamrock green. Then we have jade green, and for jade, this is really, it looks really bright, and this was one that surprised me. This is a bright jade. It's definitely not turquoise. It sits squarely in the green category, but it's very, very bright. And this is Kiwi from Barry M, so that's a jade green. And then we have emerald green, which was such a huge, expansive category. In fact, I've got two polishes here to show you that represent emerald. So there's a brighter shade here. This is Four Leaf Clover. This is an emerald green right the way through to the darker end of this shade, which is Kale from Cure Bizarre. Yeah, so it's just impossible, really. To me, emerald is more of a dual-toned green, and I've actually got two polishes here that are both called Emerald City. This one is Sally Hansen Extreme Wear Emerald City, and it's kind of metallic emerald green. And this is Emerald City from H&M, which has got a kind of gold shimmer, glitter shimmer in there. So they're both, to me, this is an emerald green. And then we have, one of these is a crocodile green and one is a seaweed green. Can you tell which one? Well, this might help if you know this. This is A England Dragon, and this is a classic crocodile green. I just love the shimmer, the glow inside this polish. Amazing. Thanks, Amanda. And this is Last Queen of Egypt, which is a seaweed green. So let me tell you something else about green. It's, as I mentioned about the growth and renewal, it's a colour of balance and harmony, very much kind of nature. It's the colour that we see all around us in nature. It's actually the most favourite colour, second to blue. So everybody's favourite colour apparently is, or the majority of people's favourite colour is blue, followed by green. It's a safety colour, so we find it in like safe, like fire exits and first aid kits, things like that. So it's a colour of safety. It's not all positive. It has a symbolic connection with money, obviously green. So banking, finance, but it also can tip into being a bit maybe too ambitious, jealousy, greed. So you get things like the green-eyed monster. Also, in the whole colour of life, so growth, renewal, energy. There's also spring green, which is new growth, but that represents inexperience. Also, in interior design, green is used. It's a natural colour. It's used a lot in interior design. A lot of people tend to go for carpets as in some sort of green shade because it gives a natural feel. Green gemstones are believed to create balance and increase feelings of hope and optimism. So if you like green stones and green jewellery, it's a very kind of healing colour. Okay, let's have a look at this final category then. So this is other greens. And we're going to start off with chartreuse. And for chartreuse, I have, it's just out of the frame here. This is Trip of a Lifetime, which is kind of a lime green, but if I look at the lime greens there, you can see there's a bit more ugly pretty to the chartreuse. So that's Trip of a Lifetime, and that's my chartreuse, or one of my many chartreuse greens. So the next shade is Parakeet Green. And this one is, again, it's out of frame. And it does look very, very, very similar to this one here, but you actually can't see. This is neon, whereas this is just very, very, very bright green. And this is Model's Own Toxic Apple. So that's a Parakeet Green. And then we have Army Green, again, a vast category. And the two polishes that I've chosen to represent these, this is Super Cooper, which was very kindly sent over to me by Debbie because I know it's such a hard to find polish. And another hard to find because it's discontinued and it's a favourite of mine, this is Cardamom by Barry M. They are actually quite different from each other, but they still fall into the Army Green Khaki category, which, as I said, is huge. Same with Forest Green. Just think of all the different greens you could find in a forest. That's kind of the challenge that you've got. It's a vast category, and what I've chosen for me personally is Shamrock and Roll to represent my forest green. Then we have neon green or Harlequin green, and I've got two here, so this is, they're very bright, and actually you can see the neon. And this is I'm with the Lifeguard, and this one is Nurture. Both great formulas for a neon green. So that's my Harlequin green. Then we have Spring Green, again, huge category, but they tend to be the paler, very, very new growth spring green. So I've got two here to show you. This is an Essence Wild Matte, and this was sent to me by Catherine. I love this one. It's called Right on My Chalkboard, and this one here is a little bit brighter. This is Vibrant Vibes, but both beautiful spring greens. Then we have a category Celadon green, which you've probably heard me mention a few times. This to me is like a ceramic, used in ceramics quite a lot. And it ranges really from, these are Celadon greens, this is a lot brighter in the camera, but this is Aquadelic, and this is My Dog Sled is a hybrid. But also, actually let's move that one, just keep these two. They're a little bit more muted in the camera. These are both in the Celadon green category, but for me, I think Pretty Cool Life falls into it more in my mind as a kind of ceramic, you know, that you'd see in a lot of ceramics. Then we have Viridian green, and this is very much a blue toned green, but it's not teal, it's got more of a grey hue to it. And that's, for me, Satin Sister by Essie, and also Viridian by Illamasqua, so namesake polish. But this, the name is rubbed off here. You can see they're very different from each other, but they both have that blue-grey hue to them. And then finally I have a hunter green, which is actually similar to the sage green but quite a bit darker. And I've got two polishes here that fit into, it's just a very, very, very dark green. So I've got Stylenomics, which is probably my darkest green from Essie, and also this is an unnamed oopsie from Ard As Nails, but I actually called it Bad Leprechaun, which is one of my manicures for St. Patrick's. So for me, these are both like hunter, dark, deep hunter greens. So, what's my favourite green? All of them. I enjoy wearing all different shades of green. I like pale pastel greens in the spring, I like brights in the summer, I like the deeper, darker emerald dual-toned greens in the autumn and the winter. I just love green any day, any time. If I was only allowed to wear green nail polish for the rest of my life, I would be quite happy with that, with the odd blue and purple and neutral from time to time. So what else can I tell you? I'll wrap this up by saying there are lots of different phrases and sayings that relate to the colour green. I've mentioned, I think, green fingers or green thumb. That relates to, you know, gardening, being good with your environment, the garden being a kind of sanctuary and a refuge. Green room, so we've talked about green being really relaxing. And if you think about the phrase green room, it's not always painted green, but sometimes it is, and it's used to, so it's a phrase that's, you know, it's a room that's set aside to relax guests before a theatre or a TV performance. And then you've got phrases like grass is greener, which is like, you know, things are better over there where the grass is greener. And there are lots of other phrases that are related to kind of envy and jealousy and things like that, you know, and being ill. So the other side of green. Cultural references with green. In Iran, green is a sacred colour that symbolises paradise. Obviously in Ireland it's the national colour of Ireland. In Japan it's the colour of eternal life. And in Portugal it's a colour of hope. On a more negative side, China, green symbolises infidelity, and in Israel it symbolises bad news. So there's a whole host of cultural symbolic references, but green is such a refreshing colour. It's a comfort colour for me, and it definitely symbolises that balance and harmony. And I think it just kind of represents my personality, from the spring green of being a bit naive in certain things to more the sage green and the deeper, darker emerald green, for sort of balance and harmony. I love green. So let me know what your favourite greens are. I hope you've enjoyed this. Please leave your green facts and your favourite greens. Tell us something about the colour green. And this is it for the primary colours. I might do some over the rainbows with like black, white, grey, neutral colours, maybe gold, silver, some metallic. So I don't know, let me know what you think. I know that this is quite a popular series, but there's only so many colours that I can cover. Or I might do just like a spotlight on a particular shade, like seafoam green, where I can do a shorter video on that particular colour. Let me know what you think. Let me know what your green facts are, and thanks very much for watching. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye!